Alright, fellas. As you know, I'm a content king now. Back in my element. Soon I'm gonna hook up my webcam. I'll do my face doxing, you know? But listen, I have to make this video because something has been bothering me, which is that I still see the narrative that Alex Pereira's finish over Israel Adesanya was too early, or that Alex Pereira should not be the, at least, like, what is basically even odds. Okay? Let me skim over the card as fast as I can, and then we'll talk in depth to a degree about Alex Pereira at the end of this, all right? But this is my review for the card. Obviously, it's a great card. As far as my bets are concerned, I'm really triggered that I didn't go heavy on Carlos Ulberg. I did really, truly feel that he should have been a bigger favorite. Yeah, I don't know. I really should have pressed my advantage on that. Carlos Ulberg is a very, very good fighter. I'm very excited. Or he's a pretty good fighter, and I'm very excited to see what he does here. His only loss to Kennedy Nzechukwu, which I talked about last time, was kind of a meme fight. So, very strange. But at 205, he's probably going to be a problem if he has a pretty good takedown defense. Not that there's, ton of wrestling threats there. Montel Jackson, Julio Arce, literally, who cares about that fight? Moving on. Trezano Sungwoo Choi. Guys, Trezano really surprised me here, I'll say. And Sungwoo Choi both managed to surprise me and not surprise me in him throwing away the fight. I did think he should have been favored. I did think that he would win, and they both had a double knockdown, and it was a great round, and yeah, it is what it is. Great fight. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Silvana Gomez-Juarez. I wasn't really watching this fight, to be honest. I was, jumping in and out. I was busy at the time. To me, it looked like Silvana might take it, but I, in full transparency, I didn't really watch close enough to really have an opinion. It just might be when I was looking up, I saw Silvana landing the better shots. It seems like more people than not thought that Karolina won, but I saw a lot of people also saying that it was they just say the word robbery without context, but they were just screaming the word robbery. I doubt that it was a robbery. Yeah. Also, that was really strange, huh? That, weird, them, pulling the cards into the ring and just scribbling it out, directly on camera. Very strange. Frevola, Ottman, Zaitar, yeah, I probably should have just taken the under on this. I thought that Frevola was live to get a knockout. I thought that Frevola was live to get a finish on the ground. He was also live to just hold him down. So that was so Frevola had a few win conditions. Ottman Zaitar had one win condition, which was that he has really, really insane power for a lightweight. But he was coming off of a long layoff. So, yeah, in retrospect, Frevola was definitely the side. Because Ottman just looked really, really bad. He looked career worst. He looked slow. His footwork did not look good. He was crossing his feet. Yeah, he just looked bad. That'll happen when you come off of a really, really long layoff. And you don't fight often. Great win for Matt Frevola. I really like that guy, so I'm very happy for him. Petrosky-Turman went about what I expected. In hindsight, the over was probably a good bet because both of these guys because they have good grappling, it either becomes a striking affair or it becomes a striking and grappling affair where neither guy can get a finish. That's typically how this thing's happen. So I think probably the under was favorited. So probably the over was the side here. Great win for Petrosky. I still think there was maybe some juice on the bone for Turman. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. We take those. I probably would. I might bet Turman again. But yeah, the Petrosky gas tank narrative is definitely really overblown. Yes, he always looks tired in round 2 and round 3, and who knows what he looks like in round 5. But he's still so strong and finds places to rest in the grappling exchanges. It's deceiving. His cardio is definitely not as bad as they like to implicate. Aaron Blanchfield, Molly McCann, what am I supposed to say? Obvious. So obvious. Like I said in the Discord, 5 units, Blanchfield. that was the bet, Span Reyes makes me sad. I don't really know what to say. Reyes should... I don't want to be the guy to call people's careers, but... The guy went from being robbed of a legitimate win over John Jones to 3 losses in a row by knockout. And, you know, we could cope before and say, well, Jan was the champion, and he hits really, really hard, so fair enough. And Jiri became the champion, and also Dominic Reyes actually knocked him out in that fight, like, with an up kick, and I don't think he realized it, and Jiri was able to recover. And that's Jiri admitted that, too. That's not cope on my end. So, yeah, but losing to Span... I mean, yeah, sure, maybe you just got clipped, but he was talking about how his defense was better this camp, and I don't know. Not great. Especially because he was coming off of a long layoff. It makes me very, very sad, because I like Dominic Reyes, and I think he's a good fighter, and yeah, it would be a very sad event if he just got to the height, should have beaten John Jones, and then he stumbles this hard. Renato Moicano versus Brad Riddell. Basically, yeah, I don't know. There's not much to say about this fight. It was a good fight. Went about, I think, how a lot of people expected. It was either going to be Renato getting clipped by Riddell off of a counter, or probably a submission by Moicano. I actually said to my friend who was sitting there, I said, oh, you know, Moicano by submission is probably like the prop. But I didn't take it, because the book, for whatever reason at the time, like, I was expecting it to be 400. Like, when I looked at it before, I saw 400, 450. And then when I looked at it on my book, it said plus 200 something. And I was like, what the fuck? And even though it's the most likely outcome, plus 230, I think it was, or something like that on my local book, it's just not, I don't know. That didn't have enough juice for me, so I didn't take it. Oh well. I had the under, so it's fine. Dan Hooker, Puelles, I should have went way heavier on Dan Hooker. In hindsight, I know this is cope, because who would have known? In hindsight, I should have taken a max bet on Dan Hooker, Alberg, Blanchfield, and then Pereira. Not because I knew that Pereira was going to win, but because Pereira was my, like, objectively, because he was the underdog out of those 3. Objectively, if 2 or 3 of those first ones cashed, it would have covered my max bet on Pereira. But yeah, that's, you know, obviously I'm talking in hindsight, I'm talking in cope, but I don't know, I'm stupid. I really, really, really thought that Dan Hooker was being disrespected. I really thought he should be a bigger favorite. I really don't understand the Puelles hype. I shit on him in the pre-fight video. Feel free to go watch it. And I really thought, you know, Alberg and Blanchfield were the sides. But yeah, what can I say? Puelles sucks. The end. Chris Gutierrez, Frankie Edgar. Yeah, I don't know. Frankie looked even slower than before. Gutierrez looked career best. Maybe that's just because it was against Frankie Edgar. This is the first time I've ever tried to fade Gutierrez, and I lost. I didn't go that heavy. It was less than a unit. I think it was a half a unit or a quarter unit. I don't remember right now. So it is what it is. Yeah, I still think that there was a path to victory for Frankie. Like, I still believe it. And, you know, just because it's a loss doesn't make it cope. Like, this is saying that Usman had no path to victory over Leon just because he got head kicks. Like, all Usman had to do was take him down and hold him there for the last minute of the round, and he would have won. I still think Frankie could have maybe pushed him up against the cage and found a takedown. I will say it's not as easy. It would not have been as easy as I'm making it seem, because Gutierrez has really good footwork. He was the thing about Gutierrez and why I've always really liked him is that he shows a lot. Like, and the thing that triggers me is that the audience, the commentators don't mention all of his feints and his fidgeting nearly as much as they do Israel. Israel will, like, feint twice, and they go, Alex is biting on all the feints. Oh, Jan is biting on all the feints. Oh my God, he's such a master at striking. And then Gutierrez throws like 50 feints a second, and they're just like, Gutierrez moving well. All right. Anyway, moving on. Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler. Yeah, I did not expect Michael Chandler to be submitted. I mean, of course, I thought it was a possibility, but definitely did not expect that to happen. I thought it would be a TKO on either side. If Chandler just knew how to throw straight punches, Dustin even said this, I think, in his in post-fight interview. If Chandler threw straight punches, I think he might have gotten Dustin out of there. But the guy he is his own worst enemy, and I had a small stab on Chandler because at plus 180, I still think he was the value side. If he almost finishes Dustin in the first round, of course he almost gets finished at the end of that round, but then he's able to, like, he shows, like, all he has to do is get a good takedown, a controlled one, and hold him there. You know, he would have won that fight. He did it in the second round. All he had to do was do it in the third, and instead he decides, like, oh, I'm going to pick him up and I'm going to slam him instead of going for a safe takedown. Dustin catches the leg on the way down. It wasn't a very controlled takedown. I think his hands came unclasped. And then Dustin, went to the back, and all's well that ends well. Great win for Dustin Poirier. The guy's completed the violence triangle. He's finished Justin, finished Chandler, and finished Eddie Alvarez. Great wins. Nothing to say about Zhang. Esparza went exactly how everybody thought it was going to be. I probably would have thought that it would be a TKO over a submission, but the submission was definitely live. I don't know what the odds are, but that would have been definitely a hindsight play. But definitely the under 4.5 was very, very undervalued. I should have max bet that too. I really thought that that fight was going to end in the distance, because if you're betting the over, you're basically gambling that Zhang is fighting a bad game plan or that Esparza is just holding her down. So why wouldn't you just bet Esparza in that case? Like, the person most likely to win a decision would be Esparza. Esparza's gets clipped, she gets cut, she's had cuts before, she has scar tissue. Like, Zhang was the obvious side, which is why she was so heavily favored. Zhang in the distance was her most likely outcome, in my opinion. So that was obvious. Now, let's talk about Pereira and Israel Adesanya. The amount of times that I hear people already still saying, or still at least likening this to the Leon Edwards loss, is disgusting. Let's pull up UFC stats, shall we? Fellas, look at these striking numbers. Right? Look at these striking numbers. Does this look like Israel was dominating the fight? It was 3-1, okay? Going into the fifth round. But look at the significant strikes. 86 of 162. This is according to UFC stats. The one on the ESPN app, I think, shows that Pereira was actually outlanding, like these numbers were higher too, if I'm not mistaken. But it doesn't really matter. Look at this. 86 of 162, okay? 91 of 157. These numbers are almost the same. These numbers are almost the same, with a slight lean to striking accuracy by Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira threw more total strikes, 100% takedown defense, or 100% takedown accuracy, and Israel had a 25%. Okay? Pereira was not getting dominated this fight, and it's actually cope. It's actually cope for Israel fans to say it was. He threw so many leg kicks. He checked most of Israel's leg kicks. I can't do a breakdown of the video, but like, go back and watch how many times Izzy throws a leg kick and Pereira checks it. Yes, Israel checked a bunch of Alex's too, but Alex was the one who was throwing them with intent. Like, he landed so many in the first round that Israel had to even admit, and now he's walking it back and saying, oh, I had a previous leg injury, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great, whatever. But he admitted that Pereira's leg kicks were causing him a lot of problems. And, like, look at this. 35 leg kicks. When was the last time Israel Adesanya was out leg kicked? He threw 35 leg kicks. And Pereira's leg kicks are harder than Israel's. So even if they threw 30 and 30, even if they landed, like Israel landed 24 and Alex landed 22, and of those 24, I'm fairly certain that, quite a few of those were checked and they just weren't counted correctly, or at least partially checked. There was a few that were, glancing, where like he didn't turn his leg all the way into it. So it was sort of, this half check, but you can't really count that as a fully checked kick, but they still count. The cope that Israel is just, a way better striker than Pereira, and Pereira just has power. Guys, look at the numbers. The numbers don't tell you the full story, but look at the targeting done by Pereira. Like, every time they were in the clinch, Pereira was ripping to the body. He was throwing great leg kicks. He went 89 to the head, 33 to the body, 35 to the legs. People say that, Pereira is just a headhunter. Oh, he throws hard strikes. Guys, he threw more body punches and more leg kicks than Israel did. He threw way more strikes in the clinch than Israel did. He's the better striker. Like, it's not cope. It's really not cope. Just because he has power doesn't make him not the better striker. It's not cope. As far as the rounds are concerned, he clearly punted round 3, not by his own volition. But he clearly punted round 3 because he couldn't get up. Or whatever you want to say. Round 4, he punted because he was saving up his cardio. And before you say that that's cope, he didn't... how many strikes did he throw in the first 2 minutes? It felt like none. It felt like single-digit strikes he attempted in the first 3 minutes of the fight. Or 3 minutes of the round, sorry. It's really not cope. Like, Khabib punted the round that he lost against Conor. I think that's fair to say. And then he ended up getting the win. Pereira did the same thing. And guys, Pereira's supposed to be the bigger fighter. He's not supposed to have good cardio. Oh, that was the big thing. Oh, look, he's gassed. That's all they kept saying. Oh, look, he's so tired. Israel laid on him. The guy who was forced to grapple, quote unquote, was supposed to be more tired. And then he came out and he blitzed Israel in the 5th round. He looked to have a fine gas tank for a guy that had to keep grappling, and there was grappling scenarios, and he shot a takedown on Israel, and grappling cardio is different than striking cardio. How come the guy who's so big and cut so much weight had cardio? Is that going to be the narrative? Is it going to be, the same thing as, what's his name, Petrosky? Is it going to be the same thing? I mean, look at this. Beautiful. This is a beautiful sight right here. But finally, let me say this. And we're gonna go through while I say this. We're gonna go through this. Okay? Izzy's 2 biggest moments in the fight was him taking Pereira down in the 3rd round, okay? And Israel, rocking him really, really bad at the end of the 1st. Izzy's 2 big moments in the fight, the 2 biggest moments of the fight for Israel, were mistakes made by Alex. In the end of the 1st round, a round in which Alex was winning, by the way, Alex went for basically big strikes in an attempt to secure the round, which I don't think that he needed to do. And then he ended up getting caught. And he got caught right at the bell. That was a mistake by Alex. When it comes to the takedown, watch the takedown in the 3rd round. Alex goes for like a lazy trip, and Israel capitalizes on it and gets him down to the ground. Israel landed 0 takedowns that were initiated by him. 0 for 3 takedowns that were initiated by Israel Adesanya. The 1 takedown he got was fair enough, a well-placed attempt from Israel after Alex tried to do this lazy trip, and Israel was basically able to reverse it and then trip him and take him down. But both of Israel's biggest moments in the fight were mistakes by Alex. So he has footage now that he can go back and shore up and fix. And Alex went for 1 takedown in open space, and he got it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do you get this? Think about this. Alex has been fighting in MMA for 1 year. Israel has been fighting way longer than that. Israel has the amount of fights, more than the amount of fights Alex has in his whole career in the UFC. Okay? Just in championship fights, basically. Israel's been on the big stage. He fought in front of 56,000 people in Australia. He's been the main event. Pereira has never had to deal with this. Yes, he was the double Glory kickboxing champion, but it's not nearly the same. The crowds for Glory are not the same as Madison Square Garden, headline of one of the biggest pay-per-view cards of the year, against the champion. The fact that he handled all the press, the media, the stress, everything like that, he was so composed and able to get it done like that, bodes well for Alex going into a 4th fight. He's already got this stuff behind him. He did the weight cut. He has the experience. He's getting better. Like, somebody who has 40 fights or 42 fights, that 2-fight difference in terms of experience is very little when we're talking overall percentage of things that you can learn that are new and new skills that you can acquire. Alex Pereira, going from 6 fights to 7 fights to 8 fights, that's a way bigger percentage of new things that he can learn. And let me say this. Let me say this too, and then we'll look at the finishing sequence. Imagine if Alex wasn't rocked at the end of round 1. Alex came back and won round 2, you understand? Imagine if he wasn't on skates for the first minute or 2 of the 2nd round. What would he have looked like in the 2nd round? Would he have stopped Israel? Would it have been a 10-8? Would he have beat him even more dominantly in the 2nd and 3rd? Yes, he has great recovery, obviously, because he recovered relatively quickly. But 1 minute is not enough to recover for how bad it looked like Alex was, rocked and put on skates right at the end of round 1, like Elsa, frozen. Imagine what round 2 would have looked like. Because Alex was winning round 1, got rocked badly, and then still won round 2. Okay? So all of these things, how do you not favor Alex going into a 4th fight? Like, from the mental game to the experience that he's now going to have. And also, final thing, if Glover loses the Jiri rematch, Glover's full attention as a coach is going to be on Pereira with the rematch. I mean, I personally am in the camp that Glover will retire, win or lose. That's just my opinion on it. There's a small chance that if he wins, he doesn't retire. I think he will. So if he loses, though, he'll definitely retire, in my opinion. Like, that's almost 100% chance. If he wins, it's probably like 50-50. So if Glover retires, win or lose, you don't think that he's going to dedicate his entire... Like, right now, he's in training camp. Like, while he was training Alex as one of Alex's coaches and training partners, he's training for the Jiri fight. You don't think that Glover's going to put 100% of his attention into getting Alex ready to beat Israel? You don't think his grappling, his clinches are going to be even better? His submissions are going to be a bigger threat? You really don't believe that? Especially because Israel Adesanya's coach, Eugene Behrman, has already said that whenever Israel takes a lot of damage or gets knocked out, for example, like in the second Poetzon fight, they wanted to take a long layoff. I imagine, my suspicion is that they'll do this fight for International Fight Week, which means we've got like, what, 7 months, 6 months until this fight is going to be announced. 6 months, probably. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of skill development. Yes, Pereira is 35, but he's still learning a lot of stuff, and he's clearly improving. So, what can I say, guys? I don't see how you don't favor Alex Pereira going into the fourth fight. Honestly, I really don't see it. And chins don't get better. Chins don't improve. If Israel took damage here, even if he didn't get put out stiff, that accumulates, guys. That accumulates. So, I don't know. Now let's look at the finishing sequence, because I want to explain why I don't think that this was an early stoppage. Maybe it was like, I'll show a graph at the end, this idea that I came up with. So let me turn the sound off before we get dinged here. So here's something really cool that Alex does. Alex fakes a left hook, see? Fakes the left hook, gets Israel to bring the guard up, and then boom, catches him. That's one unanswered shot. Right? Resets. Jab, we won't even count that. Boom, huge second shot, unanswered. 3, skims off the forehead. Israel's head comes up. What's he doing? This is not intelligent defense. Reaching right here. Little shot to the body. We still won't count that. Boom, huge shot again. Israel rocked, wobbly. Boom, catches him right there. Boom, catches him right there, right on the cheekbone from another angle. Boom, right there on the top of the head. Now he misses this. That would have been really bad. Now right here, there's another angle. I couldn't find it, but right here, there's a clip of Mark Goddard, and he's saying something to Israel. I assume it's something like, "Get out of there, Izzy," or "Show me something, Izzy." You know, something to that effect. So he's now yelling to Israel to do something. Israel's not fired a punch back. He's just reaching. He's clearly hurt bad. And while Goddard is yelling this, Israel falls, and Goddard's about to step in. He's about to stop it, but he sees that Israel sort of catches himself a little bit. Lands this. It's sort of glancing. Maybe you can count that. Right here, boom, catches him again. Boom, catches him again. Boom, catches him again. Misses that one. That one actually does land. It sort of like glances off the top of the head. I wish I could put Twitter viewers in slow motion. Boom, that kind of glances off the top of the head. There's another angle where you can see his head bounce. Huge shot right here. Again, Israel's arms are down by his side. He just got up from falling. Mark Goddard told him to show him something, and he didn't. He's now taken something like 12 or 14 unanswered strikes. And right here, Alex Pereira is loading up another shot. Israel said that he does think that it was a little bit of an early stoppage now. He's changed his mind about 3 times. Whatever. He's not trying to get out. He's just bobbing and weaving. Alex Pereira has 3 minutes left in the round to put him out there. If you're an Israel fan, what are the percentage odds that Israel gets out of this round and survives it, and it's not a 10-8? Let's say Goddard doesn't stop it, and let's say Israel doesn't get put out dead with the next shot. Let's say he circles out. You're banking that 2 of the 3 judges do not score at a 10-8 when everything is said and done for Israel to still get the win. This round needs to be a 10-9 on 2 judges' scorecards for Alex Pereira to not basically make it a draw at that point. So yes, Israel will still be the champion, but he wouldn't have won. It would have been a draw. Your best case scenario, your optimal case scenario is likely a draw. And your worst case scenario is that Israel gets put out dead, and his chin is even worse, and the argument for a rematch is even worse, and his health is even worse. Like, this is a fine stoppage, guys. This is a fine stoppage. The way that I look at stoppages is like this, right? you have two brackets up at the top, and then there's a bracket that looks a little bit something like this. And on the top, this bracket is too early. This bracket is too late. This bracket is basically like a fair stoppage. Okay? The way that I would classify it is an initial knockdown. So something like Gutierrez, Frankie Edgar falls right basically perfectly into a fair stoppage because the judge, or the referee, sorry, doesn't have much evidence to go on. He just got hit with one shot and then he went out. So it's a fair stoppage in the sense that there was no follow-up shots. The ref was fast to react. It was a perfect stoppage. Obviously, you don't want him to get knocked out, but there was nothing indicating that Frankie was like rocked before that. So it's a fair stoppage. A stoppage that's too early is would be over here, and that would be something like Kutelaba versus Ankalaev, where Kutelaba was like pretending to be rocked, and then the ref stepped in. Obviously, way too early. You know, he gets a little bit of a pass, but too early. Something like Derek Lewis knocking out Curtis Blades probably ends up something like this. Way too late from the aluminum standard, where he gets put out dead, and so it immediately starts here. But then, you know, he got hit with two more follow-up shots because Herb Dean was, like, the aluminum standard was all the way across the octagon. Very too late of a stoppage. Israel Adesanya, when he trips, is probably right about here. Too early. When he got stopped, in my opinion, is probably like somewhere right here. Somewhere within this realm. Could he have taken one more punch, two more punches max without like any intelligent defense? Yeah, sure. And so if he did, it probably would have went to this fair stoppage. But you're playing a risky game, because if one of those shots lands and puts Israel out dead, then the stoppage moves over to here. And then it's too late. And when you're talking about a fight which is going to justify a rematch, and a rematch in which you want a relatively quick turnaround, or at least a somewhat quick turnaround, optimally, you want it to fall. You would rather have it fall here than fall here, in my opinion. So it's a fine stoppage. Pereira is probably a better striker, and I don't understand why he's still going to be counted out going into the second fight. In MMA, that is, the fourth fight. And that's my rant. So, see ya.